One, two, 1, 2. Hello and welcome to Beacon of Speech. I am Fred Hunt. Across the table from me is Ted Coley. Hello, Ted Coley.
Hello, Fred Hunt.
Another blissful Friday night. It's about 50 degrees out and cold, cold rain. Are you cold?
No, not really.
Oh, well, my spirit will make you cold at heart.
I'm looking forward to it.
My topic for today, I keep teasing you. For the last half hour, I've been saying, Ted, I got an interesting topic that doesn't have anything to do with the election. So, let's start off.
That in itself is interesting.
Let's start off with what I envision for Beacon of Speech. Okay? What I want Beacon of Speech to be is I can say whatever I want, within the realm of public decency. I don't want to be a rapper, I want to be the Two Live Crew. Okay? But within public decency, say whatever I feel, and if I think corporations suck, I won't be able to say it without them suing me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, how do you get advertisers if that happens, right? Now, why do I bring that up? What does Fred want Beacon of Speech to be? Fred wants Beacon of Speech to basically be whatever we want to talk about, right?
Mm-hmm.
No boundaries. But if there's no boundaries, I would be talking about Alice Donut so we have to have some sort of self-imposed boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be talking about the Eagles for 2 hours. I'd be talking about Alice Donut for 2 hours.
Yeah, more or less.
Why do I bring that up?
Why do you bring that up?
Yes.
I don't know.
About 2 or 3 days ago, me and you used to be at work, and we used to talk about Artie Lange. Okay?
Yes.
I love Artie Lange. I think he's one of the funniest people out there. And when he was on the Howard Stern show, when I was a teenager, I used to listen to Howard Stern. I'm like, I don't really get it. I don't think it's that great. Okay? And I've told you this before. Then when I worked at Iron Mountain, I gave it another shot. And that's when Artie Lange was on. And I'm like, Howard Stern's a genius. Him and Artie Lange, are like the Dean Martin, Jerry Lewis of our generation,
Mm-hmm.
In radio, right? And I loved the Howard Stern show. I would listen to it every morning at work. You listen to it on every morning at work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Every morning at work. And then Howard Stern said, I am going to take that big pile of money. What was it, $100 million?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, at least, I think.
We'll just go for a round number. It could have been more, but he took a big pile of money.
Was it either 100 or 150 or it was something crazy?
$100 million to go to Sirius. Now, This is the beginning of our conversation, okay? Howard Stern used to be out for the little guy. We're all in this together, blah, blah, blah. He took a big giant...
That's how everybody starts their career.
Yeah. He took $100 million, went to Sirius. And I don't blame him. If somebody said, Fred Hunt, we want to pay $100 million, I'd be like, where do I sign?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Howard Stern went to Sirius, and Sirius was what, $9 a month, $11 a month?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Fred Hunt said, I will not pay $9 a month just for Howard Stern.
And that's the same thing I said.
And that's what you said. Now, Joe Kaufman said,
we're
going to get back to Artie Lange in a minute. Joe Kaufman said,
I will pay.
He did. Now, he paid for Howard Stern for a year or two, and then do you remember why he stopped?
If memory serves, I think he said that he was only there, Howard Stern was only there like 3 days a week,
Yes.
And then he would take like 8 weeks off a year.
Yeah, Ted, Joe Kaufman told me, he said that he did the math. He's paying $9 a month, $11 a month, and I would have liked Sirius because, I like metal, I like extreme music, I like, different things, right? Well, Joe goes, I got it for Howard Stern. I was paying $9 a month or whatever the price was for Howard Stern, period. And he goes, then once he went to Sirius, they said he only has to work 4 days a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, he got 8 weeks of vacation, which is 2 months off, and every Friday off, which is a nice gig. And then he signed a contract with America's Got Talent. And then they said, when America's Got Talent is on, you only have to work 3 days a week. And Joe Kaufman said, literally, as soon as the ink dried, where Howard Stern only had to do Monday through Wednesday. And again, if my facts are a little off, I apologize, because Joe would tell the story if he was here. I wish Joe was here today to clarify the story. But he said, screw it. I am getting rid of Sirius, right? And then Howard Stern played his little game. Oh, am I going to re-sign the contract? Every 5 years he does the same thing. Oh, am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? Blah, 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 right? Now, when he went to America's Got Talent, I told Joe Kaufman.
When is America's Got Talent? When is that on?
It's on NBC like on Wednesday nights or Tuesday or something. I don't even know because I don't watch it.
Okay.
But me and Joe Kaufman, and again, he's not here, so I'm sorry to speak for him. But I said, when did Howard Stern decide that he wants to be beloved? Howard Stern is all about saying whatever Howard Stern wants to say. Right? Now he wants everybody to love him, like he's having a midlife crisis. Like I don't want to be the Marilyn Manson of radio. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now,
and that's probably, when you get down to it, the only reason why I liked him.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, he wasn't.
I mean, if I wanted somebody who's mainstream, I could pick anybody.
You could turn on any channel and find interchangeable mainstream people. And the example I use is ESPN. 20 years ago, you can name all the people on ESPN. Stuart Scott. I'm drawing a blank. But I'm thinking Stuart Scott, who's the guy who says, he might go.
Berman?
Chris Berman, right? You can name Keith Olbermann, Dan Patrick.
Yeah.
You can name them all, right? Who's the late night talk show host? Craig Kilborn.
He was on there?
Yeah. You can name them all. Now you turn on ESPN, and other than the girls who you think are cute, right?
Yeah.
They're just interchangeable people, in and out. It doesn't matter. They're different guys in different suits. You can't name one guy on ESPN anymore, right? And it's the same thing with Howard Stern. Well, if you don't want to play the Howard Stern act, you're literally interchangeable. You know, you stood out because you were different. You were doing something different. Now he wants to be beloved, right? Oh, I want people to love me. Now, me and Joe Kaufman had this conversation a few years ago when Joe Kaufman got rid of his Sirius subscription. Artie Lange came out 2 days ago. Actually, I'm going out of order. About 3 or 4 days ago, I said, whatever happened to Artie Lange? Right? So I looked up Artie Lange because I liked him. You know, I liked him from Dirty Work to comedy, Howard Stern, everything.
Were you sort of looking that up like with one eye open and just, you know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Afraid of what you will
Hopefully he's
find?
not in an institution somewhere, right? So it said that Artie Lange has his own show, just like us, just like me and you. No, I'm being serious.
You think he has more listeners?
I'm going to ask you the same. That's where I'm going. How much would you pay? Let's pretend like me and you weren't doing it. Say it was a friend of yours.
What would you do for a Klondike bar?
Who was the leader of your band again? What was his name?
Tim.
Tim. Okay, I'm writing this down. Tim. Tim is doing the podcast, right? He's doing a podcast with one of his friends that you don't know.
Probably the bass player.
Probably the bass player.
But I do know.
How much would you spend to hear Tim's podcast? A month?
0. I've heard Tim's.
So
I've heard Tim's rants.
This
Tim's rants for 20 years.
So this is where I'm
and
going.
I heard him for free.
So you would not pay any money for Howard Stern. You would not pay any money for your personal friend Tim that you had to hear rants from for 20 years. So I go to Artie Lange, and you could download his podcast. Only $6 a month, Ted Coley.
$6 a month?
Only $6. No, not $6. Only $6.
Only $6 a month.
Yes, only $6 a month. And I said, sorry, Artie Lange, when it gets down to 0 where you can commercialize it, then I will listen
You know
again.
what? I think that you should start charging people to listen to this.
Oh, maybe that's where we're going wrong.
Because if you're not charging anything, people don't think it's worth anything.
Yeah. Maybe that's where our business model is going wrong. So,
If they think, well, if it's free, it can't be any good.
yeah. My philosophy on that is people are inherently lazy. Okay? if you make them pay for us, we are never going to get anywhere. Okay? In order to be popular, me and you, now, we might not ever be popular just based on our own merits. Okay?
If the first 48 years are any indication. But
But I'm hoping to get a partner where they're like, oh, we think we could monetize, you guys do the blah, blah. Boring business stuff. Okay?
mhm.
There is no way that people are going to pay $6 a month unless we have like random drawings where, like during the thing, you could win $1,000. It's like 1 in 10 people win $1,000. Unless we turn
you
it
can
in,
win your $6 back.
yeah, you can win your $6. You can play your Casino Royale at Fred and Ted's. All right, but I keep getting off topic. So Artie Lange, earlier this week, by coincidence, I found out $6 a month. Right? I'm like, I'm not paying it. Okay, and you already told me you're not paying it either. By a coincidence,
you should get a hold of Artie Lange and say, I'll give you 4.
Listen, Artie, I'll plug your show, and then you're going to give me a discount. But I like Artie Lange, okay? So let's go back. So 2 days ago, it's still fresh in my memory, the $6 a month for our Artie Lange podcast. And I was on my favorite news site, the Daily Mail UK, right? And you scroll down about halfway, and guess what? There was an article about
Artie Lange.
Artie Lange. Very good. What is Artie Lange doing on the Daily Mail? Why is he making news?
Why is Artie Lange making news on the Daily Mail?
Yes, on the Daily Mail this week.
I'll say I'm going to take a shot in the dark. This might not make any sense or anything. He's back on the Howard Stern show.
No, that's why he's making news, because he's not on the Howard Stern show.
Now, he has not been on there since
The
he had
attempted suicide.
Okay, yeah.
Right. And he even jokes around about it. He's like, oh, yeah, ever since that suicide thing. So it's not like we're letting the cat out of the bag.
Yeah.
Okay? So,
So he's on there to announce that he's not on the Howard Stern show.
yes. What I think he's doing is he's trying to make some waves in order for people to turn on his podcast for $6 a month. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But, and I'm not saying what he's saying isn't true, but I'm saying he's trying to generate some buzz. So he did an interview with a different website, and the Daily Mail picked it up. And basically, what Artie Lange said is exactly what me and Joe Kaufman said. Artie Lange said about 3 years ago, he goes, maybe a few years more, when he went and did America's Got Talent.
When Howard Stern.
Yeah, when Howard Stern went on America's Got Talent, he said he hired some sort of efficiency expert or consultant or something.
Howard Stern did.
Howard Stern did, and he wanted to be beloved, right? And he said that after that, he had talked to other people on the show, and I guess they can only talk to Howard after talking to his consultant. Like, they can't talk to him anymore.
Who can't?
Like Robin, Fred, Baba Booey, they can't talk to him unless they talk to the consultant first.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This is true?
Well, according to Artie Lange. And so
Wow.
that made news because they said now he's bigger than life. They said Howard Stern just did an interview with Gwyneth Paltrow where he basically was asking her about her diet and how come she's so beautiful. You know, Entertainment Tonight type interviews.
Now listen to, okay, he was basically kissing her ass.
Yes.
And I remember, now this would be going back at least 10 years.
Yeah.
Because it was when Howard Stern was still on, what do you call it, terrestrial radio.
Yeah.
He said, and this is a quote, or pretty close to it.
Uh-huh.
He saw her in a restaurant, and I guess she ignored him.
Yeah.
And I think his exact quote was, "You skinny, no boob bitch."
Yes.
Like, in other words, you can't come over and say hi to me.
Right. So the money shot for the Artie Lange interview, with not the interview, but, you know, the story in the Daily Mail, is that Artie Lange said 3 years ago Howard Stern became what he hated.
Wow.
And so that's why it's one of the lead stories. He's the guy who's the big phony, he's the Simon Cowell, he's the judge. And
You know,
and Artie Lange said, and again, he's saying all this, but it's the same exact thing that me and Joe Kaufman have said. Me and
yeah,
you have said.
yeah.
Well, why?
Well, like I said, none of this proves that that's true.
Right.
Because it's possible it might be Artie just trying to get,
Subscribers.
publicity or whatever.
Right.
But that was the gut feeling I had when I saw that he was on America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
You know how you make Snap,
Yeah. Everybody had. You meet somebody, you make a gut decision.
Yeah.
I like them.
When I saw that he was on there, I didn't even watch it or anything. Just seeing that he was on something like that,
Yeah.
I said, he's dead to me.
Yeah. Joe, and like I said, I wish Joe was here. Because he more or less said that. He called Sirius and said, I cancel. And they're like, oh, we got 200 channels. And Joe Kaufman said that they would run the repeats into the ground. There was more repeats. Now, the story gets worse, but that's the money shot. Okay? Artie Lange wrote a book 3 years ago, and I don't remember which one of his books it was. Was it that Too Fat to Fish or whatever? Or was that his first book?
Too Fat to Fish. What was his first book?
I thought he had 2 books.
Well, the way I read things, I mean, I don't really read. I just jump around. But I read, air quotes, Too Fat to Fish.
Okay.
And he might have had 2 books.
So whichever one came out in 2013, again, this follows the timeline that Artie Lange laid out. That's when when Howard Stern was on started America's Got Talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Artie Lange was doing the book tour. I'm talking WABC in Omaha and WXYZ in Las Vegas. His publisher, Simon & Schuster, said, why don't you go on the Howard Stern show? And Artie Lange's like, I don't know.
So this was after the
suicide attempt.
Okay. I think
They said-
Too Fat to Fish came out before that.
Okay, then it must have been the second book. So Simon & Schuster, his publisher in 2013, said, while you're on your book tour, why don't you go on the Howard Stern show? Right? And I guess Artie Lange's like, I don't know. And they said, no, seriously. And so he asked, and they said no. They said they did not want Artie for a reunion interview.
Yeah.
And Artie's like, well, it'd really help out. I'm trying to publicize my book. And they're like, no thanks. Right? And I guess Artie Lange's like, okay. And, that was it. So he told Simon & Schuster. Simon & Schuster said, whoa, you're Artie Lange. You were on there for 10. And they're like, listen, we got ways of making people get on shows. Right? And again, this is on the Daily Mail earlier this week. And so Artie Lange, again, according to Artie Lange, Simon & Schuster offered Howard Stern a, air quotes, substantial amount of money to let Artie back on the show to promote his book for one day. And what did Howard Stern say?
Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I zoned out for a second. What was the last couple sentences?
Simon & Schuster, Artie Lange's publisher, they offered a substantial sum of money to Howard Stern to, advertising, Howard Stern show, to let Artie come back and promote his book. It would be great for book sales.
Yeah.
And what did Howard Stern say?
Yes?
He said, thanks, but no thanks.
Wow.
So not only were they going to get a guest for free, but then they were going to get paid to have Artie on, which you would think would be great radio.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah. And so they said no. And the rumor was, again, whisper, was Howard Stern's tired of being in the gutter. He wants to interview celebrities like Gwyneth Paltrow, not like Artie Lange.
That's sad.
Ted is shaking his head. Because like I said, I like Artie Lange, and I used to like Howard Stern. But like I said, it's not that I don't like him, it's just I don't listen to him anymore. I'm not paying to listen to, like Joe Kaufman said, 3 days a week of, You know.
You know what that tells me? You know how they say there's a thin line between love and hate?
Yeah.
It's like all that, trashing celebrities and, all that represents is you're mad because you want to be like them.
Yeah. And how many times have you heard me say on the Beacon of Speech thing, part of my problem is I'm just jealous. I wish that was me. I wish I was, But he ain't admitting that. Howard Stern ain't coming out and saying, oh, the whole time I'm just a shallow SOB who just wanted to be popular.
But you think that's what it is?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that on mic.
That's, I had suspicions, like I said, when I saw that he was on America's Got Talent. Even though I knew nothing about the show, I never watched it. I would come across it every once in a while and watch it for like a minute.
Yeah.
But it just rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, this doesn't seem right.
Yeah. But it goes back to, what is your goal? Okay? Now let me tell you straight from me to you.
I guess when you have more money than you could ever know what to do with, you start focusing on other things.
Yeah. Like being beloved instead of doing what you're good at. Now, I hate all those shows. I hate The Voice. I hate America's Got Talent. Now, I'm not
Yeah, I mean, I never watched those shows.
Yeah, The Voice. Ugh. But
I mean, I never even watched what was the first one in that vein?
American Idol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch that?
No. I think American Idol was an abomination against music. Basically, they took real musicians, right? And Jim Rome said it best. He said it's American karaoke. It's a bunch of beautiful people singing songs with no feelings. Like, can I sing that Eagles song? Oh, well, technically you can, but you didn't write it, you didn't perform it, you didn't go on the road. You're just a pretty face trying to do a karaoke version of a song.
Although, believe it or not, I do like Kelly Clarkson.
I like Kelly Clarkson too. I like a couple of her singles, and then people are mean to her, and I feel really bad. Ted's shaking his head. I bummed him out. I put the wet blanket on Ted.
Yeah, thanks. Like I said, I kind of had a feeling anyway, but it's still shocking to hear. But the thing is that Howard Stern will not talk directly to like Fred and Robin.
Well, if they make an appointment with them and then they clear what they want to talk to him about, then he'll talk to him face to face. But it goes back to the interview question we were talking about with Hillary Clinton, and I knew we were going to...
But why? Why did he do that?
I don't know. You have to ask Artie Lange, and again, maybe he's going to explain it. Like, right now, we're doing this huge advertisement for Artie Lange. Like, go buy his podcast for $6 a month.
Another thing, speaking of stuff like that, I remember Howard Stern talking about, I don't know if he was talking about Imus or somebody like that, who, like, people who worked for him weren't allowed to, like, look at him when they passed it. Yeah. I mean, is Howard Stern up to that? Or down to that level?
Probably.
Yet? God. That's sad.
There's a big gray cloud sitting on Beacon of Speech.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I don't know if I've ever told this story on Beacon of Speech, but me and my friend Brent Walla, right? We would sleep out in a tent in the backyard.
What's his name? Dishwalla?
Brent Walla. Me and Brent Walla, we would sit in the back, or we would take a tent, we'd pitch it in the backyard, right? And we would take the radio out, and we would listen to Pete Franklin on 3WE, and he would talk sports.
How old were you?
Oh, geez, 8, 9, 10 years old. And he was awesome. And he was the first loudmouth in Cleveland sports, right? Now, there were other loudmouths in Cleveland, like Gary D., but I was too young to listen to him. And Morton Downey Jr. Morton Downey, right?
Yeah. I
We're
don't know.
down.
I don't know. if
But
there's a
Pete
team.
Franklin was the original sports loudmouth. You know, he'd be talking about the Indians. Yeah, the Indians. And then some kid would call up, "You snot-nosed little sniveling brat, get off my airwaves. You don't know nothing about nothing. I know more baseball in my pinky than in your whole body. You take your prepubescent." You know, he's just screaming at the kids, and we used to laugh. We were like, "Oh, Pete Franklin's awesome," even though we were just kids, right? "Oh, we should call Pete Franklin and see if he yells at us. That'd be awesome," right? But then, like I said, every like couple of years, I would fall in love with different, radio things. And like I said, the last guy I really liked was Jim Rome. I really liked listening to Jim Rome show. I thought he was really good. But then Jim Rome, he was on ESPN Cleveland, right? And they said, you know what, we'd rather have local talk. We'd rather have local talk instead of Jim Rome, and they put him on a frequency where I couldn't hear him anymore, right? I'm in the vehicle. I can't hear the Jim Rome show anymore. And then after a few years, I'm like, I'm done.
Fred, you're working.
Yeah.
This isn't playtime.
This isn't playtime. It's time for you to work. So I don't have the same negative attitude towards Jim Rome because in my mind, Jim Rome did not like sell out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody screwed him, and then they replaced Jim Rome with Cleveland Browns Daily. How are the Browns doing right now?
I believe they still have not won a game.
Yeah, they suck balls. Okay? And they're basically an expansion team, and somehow they still make money hand over fist, and Jim Rome is on some little,
Talking about Howard Stern, it almost makes me think of like Elvis. You know what I mean? Elvis, the rebel,
yeah.
And then he ends up in Vegas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just not right.
I've read a horrible story about Elvis. Not a horrible story, but I'll let you make the decision, okay? Whether it's a horrible story or not. Do you know who Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, is?
Yes.
Okay. Supposedly she turned 65 this year. And there was an interview with her, and I don't even know what she was promoting. I think she was just saying, I'm 65 and I'm still around, right? I don't even know if she was promoting anything. She seemed like the nicest gal ever in the interview, right? And I always liked Elvira, Mistress of the Dark.
Mm-hmm.
And they were asking her personal questions, and for some reason, she was answering them, right? And they said, what was the first time you ever had sex, right? And she said she did with Tom Jones.
Tom Jones?
Tom Jones. And she was talking about how horrible it was. And I'm like, oh, did Tom Jones abuse her? And then she's like, no, I was a group. And I keep reading the story because I got hooked. Supposedly, the story I read, and again, this is the internet, maybe it's not true, but supposedly Tom Jones is so huge that he bruised her. Let's put it that way. And I'm like, Tom Jones is so... That must be a horrible thing to get out. Talking about Howard Stern. Oh, that must have been horrible. The guy bruised you because he was so huge. You don't want that getting out. So, but she talked about that she was a groupie and she would hang out with the singers. And she met Elvis, and this is why I'm circling back around. She said she slept with Elvis, and she said that her and Elvis talked a lot, like during the encounter.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, well, she sang for him. He says, you got a lot of talent. He goes, you're really wasting your time in Vegas. He goes, you're just going to end up on Skid Row or on drugs or alcohol, right? Which is ironic.
Wait a minute. Elvis is telling Elvira this?
He's telling 19-year-old Elvira this, or 20-year-old Elvira this, and says, if you want to make it, you have to dedicate yourself and you have to go to like L.A. or New York. He's like, all you're going to do is end up wasted, strung out on drugs if you stay in Vegas. And she said...
Well, Elvis was already in Vegas at this point?
Yeah. And I guess she was like, thank you, Elvis. And she's like, because he was bigger than life, she took his advice to heart, and because he knows show business. So she packed up her bags and went to Los Angeles. And she says that she credits Elvis for saving her life. But again, she goes, at the end of the day, we know what Elvis wanted. And I was a young lady, and, things happen. Right? But again, I thought it was an intriguing story. Because you don't hear too many stories of Elvis saved my life.
Yeah.
Right? Now, again, I take why I'm reading at the internet. Maybe that's not true. Maybe she slept with some guy named Elvis Smith,
Yeah.
and then she made it Elvis Presley to make it a better story. You never know. But I believe Elvira. Ted's nodding his head. I know.
I've never known Elvira to lie.
I've never. She's only shown me nothing but good movies, and that's why I don't know. Something about tying in with Howard Stern. I'm like, I wonder how many people's lives that Howard Stern used to be on the radio. Excuse me. And people would call in, what was that time they said that guy was going to kill himself?
Yeah,
and then they said, Howard Stern saved my life.
Yeah.
Right? Well, Elvis Presley saved Elvira's life. Same thing.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just remember, like the first time I listened to Howard Stern.
Right.
It was like the fall of '92.
Okay.
And I was just amazed that somebody on the radio was saying the things he was saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, what'd you call it, like an epiphany or...
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain days that I'll never forget, and that was one of them.
Yeah.
Now I hear this, and it's like...
Well, I see, now I almost feel bad. Okay? Now,
But like I said, you're not... I kind of had a feeling that... I didn't know that it was this severe.
Let me circle around and tell you another story, okay? And this will make you feel better about things. Were you a fan of George Carlin?
Yeah, not a huge fan, but
about a month ago, I read a story about George Carlin. And they said as he got older, he actually got meaner and more mean-spirited. And that's what Howard Stern should be doing.
Yeah.
And I guess George Carlin did a skit. It was
See, now you made me feel better.
it was August of 2001. And he did a skit about we need more disasters to thin the herd. He says, and he didn't say we need a terrorist attack. But he said, we need something that comes out and just, bam, smacks you in the mouth and remind humanity that life sucks sometimes. And he goes, that's the way life is. You get a curveball.
Now, do you think he was really like that, or do you think that was a persona?
Or do you think... I got the impression that he was just like that.
Okay, good.
Because he was just edgy. There's people who are edgy. And we'll circle back around because I'm going to write something down. Okay. I'm writing this down so I don't forget. So he recorded this in August, and this was way back, in 2000, where you couldn't turn it around and you hear it the next day, right? It's not like I watched a video literally right before you came up. Weird Al took the third debate, and in 2 days he made a 3-minute auto-tune song about the third debate.
What, the third debate? Trump and
Clinton.
Yeah.
And I'm like, a generation ago, that would take a month to a year to do what he did in 3 days. And I love Weird Al. I think he's awesome, right? He's his own... Like, Weird Al basically seems like the same guy he was when he was 25, singing Eat It, right? He's better at it. It's faster. It's better quality. But he's not selling out. You know what I mean? He's not like, oh, well, now I'm going to write pop songs. Me and Lady Gaga are going to be doing duets. Weird Al's still doing the cheesy, things. But, back to George Carlin. So he did this in August of 2001, and then September 11th happened, and they said the topic was too close to the September 11th bombing. And they put it on the shelf, and I guess George Carlin said, I will release this when the atmosphere is just better, right? And I guess he died. He died before he thought the atmosphere was better, so he literally had this in the vault.
I can't even remember when he died.
Oh, I want to say 2011. So it was about 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe it was 2012,
But that much time went by and he still didn't think it was.
no, he still didn't think.
Wow.
But so it's just like Prince, George Carlin's got this stuff in the vault, and they said, well, we're going to release it, but we have to make sure there's an audience because, again, how many people are buying comedy albums in the year 2016? So, but it exists, and I want to hear it. You know what I mean? I want to hear the George Carlin, hey, let's thin the herd. Because I think that'd be a good skit. But that's what I want to do. I want to, 20 years from now, still be bitching about whatever. Not interviewing Miley Cyrus. Oh, Miley, you're a genius. Yeah. You've been a genius since Hannah Montana.
Well, didn't George Carlin, isn't he the one who said, like, how kids nowadays have bicycle helmets and stuff like that? And back then, back when George Carlin was a kid, or even when we were kids, nobody had that.
Yeah.
He said it was nature's way of thinning out the stupid people.
I remember when I was in the second grade. I was in second grade, and it was metal bars, and it was like a 3D Rubik's Cube, right? And there was like 16 bars. It just looked like a big cube, but it was open, so you could climb in through the bars, right? And it was set on a big giant piece of cement.
Yeah.
And I remember it was, again, first or second grade, and by the end of the year they said, you can't play on that anymore because kids get hurt on it.
Is that what they called monkey bars?
It was like monkey bars, but it was a little different.
Yeah.
The point is, and Bill Cosby does a great sketch about it. They said that was a way of, hurting kids. Hey, go play on the monkey bars. That'll teach that kid a lesson. I remember being a kid and playing on the playground, and there was cement all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
And so now we're just cranky old men. But in the last Speaking of Speech, did we talk about Bob Dylan?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Talking about cranky old men, Hunter Thompson said that growing old sucks. And he killed himself.
He proved it.
And he proved it. He said, you know what, it really sucks. I'm going to kill myself. Right? Now, I don't know how much money Hunter Thompson had. Maybe he was broke. Right? But I guess I read an article this week, and he said, and it just was a great irony, everybody said that Bob Dylan was a great poet, including Ted Coley. And Hunter Thompson said, and I'm giving Ted the sign. What did Hunter Thompson say about Bob Dylan?
He's an a-hole.
He basically said his writing is crap.
Well, I can't imagine Hunter Thompson paying anyone a compliment.
No. You know what? He's gonna. You know who he's paying a compliment to? The creator of his Remington gun. This is a fine piece of American craftsmanship, this Remington. So, but yes, so I like my cranky men to stay cranky. I don't like them selling out to the man. Okay?
I agree 100%.
And again,
I mean, that's the whole reason you're listening to him in the first place.
Yeah. Because I was... Go ahead.
When you start listening to somebody like Howard Stern, you're not thinking, this guy's really good. Maybe someday he can be on America's Got Talent.
Yes, that's a great analogy, because I never thought that. Oh, one day he'll be on the nightly news. So, I thought he was good at what he'd done. And he seemed like he really enjoyed... When me and you listened to it, you never got the impression that he aspired to be anything more than Howard Stern. Did you?
No.
No, I just want to talk about vaginas and, lesbianism.
But now when I think back, though, it was probably a pretty slow build because, you have some success, you write a couple books, then you make a movie. You could see how it goes into that.
Yeah. I wrote a book and wrote a movie. It hasn't gone to my head because nobody's read it. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so but maybe if you had a lot of people, like, watch the movie and read your books,
And
maybe
kiss
you
an
would end up.
ass.
Maybe you would end up on like America's Got Talent.
Maybe that's my problem. Is I need to like whenever me and you do pre-production meetings, our 30 minutes before we start. Maybe you need to talk to my wife, and then she'll be my business manager, and then we.
So I'm not allowed to directly talk to you anymore.
And me and Ted, we sit across the table from each other. And Quinn, my daughter, she makes fun of us.
I have
all the
to
time.
run it by Kevin first. Or...
Yeah, you got rid of by the dog, Kevin, and maybe you sit across the table from me, so I'm always looking at you. You're looking at me, but maybe I gotta make a rule. No contact. You have to look at this. No eye contact. You have to look at this spot,
Put a
or you have to
divider.
make a hand signal if you want to. Because I always remembered Howard Stern's studio. They weren't looking at each other, weren't they? Like offset from each other.
Yeah, but I think that's common.
Yeah. So me and you are sitting across the table from each other, but and when Joe Kaufman would do it, it would be two on one side, me on the other. And like I said, if we ever get our own show, we're not the only other. If someone was in a production room, that's fine, but we're all in here. We're all going to be at the table.
Yeah, you dropping this bombshell on me. That just...
Shocked you.
No, but it was good. It's very interesting.
But Ted, there's always, and again, I used to love Marilyn Manson. I thought he was awesome, right? And he did album, and they weren't as good as they used to be, but they got progressively worse. But I still like Marilyn Manson, right? And then he fell in love with a 19-year-old girl. Does that sound familiar? Just like Howard Stern fell in love with somebody 25 years younger. And then he wrote a love album called Heart-Shaped Glasses. And I'm like, I'm done with Marilyn Manson. Right? So it's not just Howard Stern. It's just like you said, it's shocking to hear from Artie Lange. Now, Artie Lange is still Artie Lange. He's still the guy from... maybe Artie Lange is angling to be the next Howard Stern. Maybe that's his end game. He's like, you know what? Howard Stern sold out to the man. Why don't you get back the $10 million up to my house, and I'll do the morning show on CBS Radio, build a morning show around. So who knows? Maybe his motives are not pure, but what he says seems to be true. It fits into... You know how many times me and Joe Kaufman said we can't believe that Howard Stern was on America's Got Talent? It wasn't just one conversation.
Yeah.
So maybe Artie Lange is like, I'll throw Howard Stern under the bus, and then all his fans will jump off of his bandwagon and come onto mine.
Now, do you know when Artie Lange left the Howard Stern show? Was it because of the suicide?
Yeah, the suicide attempt.
So he was on there right up until that happened.
Right. It was like, and I don't, so if Joe Kaufman's here, he'd correct me because he like has all the skits memorized, all the, all the years of Howard Stern.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, he didn't show up for work like on a Friday. And they didn't know where he was. And sometime over the weekend, they said, we can't find Artie. I think, and again, Howard Stern, he doesn't do any of that. He tells his people, Baba Booey, find out where Artie is. I'm sick of his crap. And again, I might have to get corrected by Joe Kaufman because I'm going by memory. And I think Baba Booey called Artie Lange's mom and said, we can't find him. She went to his house and he was laying in his own pool of blood. Right? And then he never came back. So, and I think Artie Lange said that the last time he saw Howard Stern was Robin Quivers had some sort of medical procedure, and they both went and saw her, and they made her laugh for a few minutes, and then that was the last they saw of him.
And this was after?
That would be around 2012, I think he said. Again, I don't have the article punched up.
Yeah.
And again, if we had two computers... I'd be doing one, I'd be talking about it while we're recording, but we only have the one computer still.
Yes.
Well, don't get me wrong, Ted. I do want to grow. I want to grow so we have our own show. And we have 2 computers. So if I'm talking and I'm trying to do stuff from memory, I can look at the computer instead of try and use my porous noggin there.
Yeah.
So Ted,
There's nothing to believe in.
I'm going to, I am going to tell you. Well, no, because Ted loves rock and roll, right? You love classic rock.
Yes.
When you were younger, that was your love, and you used to love Howard Stern. Me and you used to talk about, did you hear Howard Stern today, right?
Yeah.
And then they left, and Ted goes, what do you listen to, Fred? I said, a bunch of stuff. But there was never anything that was like a must listen anymore.
Mm-mm.
You know what I mean? Even when I listened to Jim Rome, the main reason I listened to Jim Rome is because I was at work and that's what was on. I didn't say, I wasn't like, oh, I wonder what Jim Rome has to say about the Denver Broncos tonight. You know, it was just, I like Jim Rome. But then Joe Coffin would make fun of me. He'd be like, have a tank, don't suck. Have a tank, don't suck. I'm like, Joe Coffin, you spoil everything for me.
Yeah. Hopefully that won't happen to Michael Savage.
Alex Jones. Talking about, because I had this written down too. Now we're going to have to talk about the election because it's coming up, okay? But I wanted to try and put it off as long as possible.
It's 18 days.
Alex Jones is getting sued. Do you know who he's getting sued by?
Joey G.
Alex Jones is getting sued by one of the Sandy Hook parents. Alex Jones said that, let me see if I got this right. Sandy Hook did not happen. It was kind of like you know how the people who are like, oh, there's no moon landing, they did it on a, well, according to Alex Jones, they went on a sound stage and they made up Sandy Hook with actors and stuff in order to push gun control measures in America, right? Now, again, you can have freedom of speech, and that's what Beacon of Speech is. But I'm going to say it right now. Alex Jones is an idiot. To deny Sandy Hook is like somebody denying the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Okay? And so when I say I love people like Howard Stern or Marilyn Manson, what they're doing is shock, but it's still cartoon shock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I really don't think that Howard Stern is going out, you know.
What's his so-called evidence for this allegation?
His evidence is that they're trying to push gun control laws. And so it's like he's just an idiot. And now we are into
I mean, if you believe stuff like, I don't know if he really believes that, you know, that saying that Sandy Hook never happened.
right.
But if you believe something like that, then you will literally believe anything.
Yeah. Yeah, you're just a moron. And again, you know, well, InfoWars isn't about Sandy Hook. Well, all these conspiracy theories, and again, this is the Fred conspiracy theory. I've told you this 10 times. Americans are lazy. Okay? And Sandy Hook happened because nobody took the time to take care of some deranged kid.
Yeah.
And the deranged kid just went deranged and shot up a school. There's no conspiracy. It's that simple. The kid was crazy. Nobody took care of him. Simplest. And don't get me wrong, there's conspiracies out there. Okay? But most of them aren't the crazy conspiracies that you think of. They're very big. 9/11. You know, Jesse Ventura. Oh, you know, George Bush put a backpack of explosives on his back, ran up to the 58th floor, blew up the building, hurried up and ran down, and then said, oh, it was the Saudis. Isn't that Jesse Ventura's take?
Yeah.
9/11 was a bunch of terrorists that the American government, the intelligence just missed on.
Yeah.
And the people who said, "Oh, you can't knock down the Twin Towers," they said you can't sink the Titanic too. That's not conspiracy. They hit a big iceberg and they were just flat out wrong. Two big giant planes hit the Twin Towers. They said they couldn't be destroyed. Well, guess what? They got destroyed, just like the Titanic. People trying to sell things. The Twin Towers will never be destroyed. Okay, well, you came up with this grand conspiracy theory. Why don't you just go with the basic theory that the people who built the Twin Towers lied and they could be knocked down fairly easily? And so when I say Americans are lazy, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's very few conspiracies. And like I said, even if...
Now, do you think the Kennedy assassination was a conspiracy?
No.
You don't?
No. I think that Lee Harvey Oswald and one or two of his friends shot Kennedy. And then his friends
do you think there was more than one gun?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's probably 2 or 3 gunmen. You shot the other one. Now, we can go back and let's go back to more conspiracies. Timothy McVeigh, right? He blew up the Oklahoma City bomb, the Oklahoma City Federal Building.
Yeah, yeah.
And they said he had one accomplice and he's in jail. And that one accomplice is like, "Oh no, he had accomplices, but it wasn't me." You see what I'm saying?
Is it Terry Nichols?
Terry Nichols, yeah. And he's in jail. He's like, all I did was I was an innocent farmer and gave him Timothy McVeigh 1,000 pounds of fertilizer. I thought he was going to plant sunflowers, right? All those guys have 1 or 2 helpers. You can go through and, let's say me and you commit a crime, right?
Well, some people might think
they might say beacon of speech is a crime, right? But it's very simple. You don't rat your friend out, and, it's not a conspiracy. It's just what it is. How much help did they give? I was talking about the Unabomber last episode, right? Unabomber was by himself. But a lot of people in the intelligence community said, well, he couldn't have done all that by himself. He couldn't have made it. He couldn't have sent it. He couldn't have... Well, yeah, because his job, he didn't have a day job, right? His day job was terrorism, okay? It's not like he was working somewhere and then at night, he's like, I'm going to blow stuff up. Well, yeah, that's why he could do it all by himself.
Yeah. So he didn't wear a lot of hats. He just...
No, he was all about...
He wasn't a multitasker.
No, that guy was not about... And my favorite thing is the Unabomber when, they asked people in the neighborhood and they said, oh, that was just Crazy Ted. He would ride from his... They knew that he lived in a shack in the woods and rode his bike to the general store. And they used to call him Crazy Ted. A guy named Crazy Ted was a Unabomber? What a shock!
We had a guy when I was a kid who lived down the street from us who, I think he drank a lot.
Okay.
And I don't think there was any electricity in his house. I mean, it was... Now, he never ended up doing that, but, blowing people up. But years later, he was on the news because his mother lived with him.
Uh-huh.
His mother had passed away, and he left her in the house, like for, I don't know, a year or something. And they finally found out. I forget what the reason was, how they found out. But, yeah, she died, and he just left her in the house.
Did he keep cashing her checks? Her Social Security
so.
checks?
I guess that's why you do it. But
because I was watching 60 Minutes, and I remember this lady. She must have been about 55, 56, and she had been cashing her mom's Social Security checks for 20 years. And her defense was, well, they never stopped sending them.
Oh, okay.
And then she was on 60 Minutes because they made her pay back all the money. And she goes, the government's trying to take my house.
Trying to screw me.
Yeah, they're trying to screw me. It's like, you mean the government's trying to screw you with the money that you screwed from them?
Did she did she have to go to jail, or did they just make her pay it back?
I think they made her go to jail for like 30 days. But it wasn't that. It was that she's like, I'm going to lose my house. And they're doing the interview from her house. Now, you're sitting in my living room, and my house is about $100,000, more or less, right? Round number, right? If you were sitting in my house, you could probably tell it's a $100,000 house, right? Yeah, I'm not in poverty, but there's no Van Goghs hanging on she's given this interview with 60 Minutes with her brand new living room furniture, her brand new thing. In the back, there's a big wood cabinet with all this porcelain.
Well, you don't want to make a bad impression if you're on TV.
Yeah, if you're on 60 Minutes, you want people to see your $350,000 house. So she's taking all these Social Security and she was working, and her husband was working. Her husband had either divorced her or passed away. But and so she's sitting in this house, and it's so hard to feel bad for her because I'm like, this house is worth triple of what my house is. And again, it's not like there's not cracks in my walls or anything. I'm just saying it's a little house. It's not, Howard Stern, he was on 60 Minutes, and I remember watching part of it, and they didn't even have him in his house. Yeah. You know what I mean? He was like walking the streets, and they had him outside of where'd he go? Elementary school? Was it Roosevelt?
Roosevelt. Yeah, I think I remember that.
Yeah. So they didn't have him sitting in his living room, and he's worth a crap ton of money.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I don't know. Did they walk by his house where he grew up too?
I think so.
Yeah, because I remember that.
Yeah, because I don't think they let him in. Because the house he grew up in was probably like this house that we're sitting in, or your house.
Oh, yeah.
Either way, it's probably more your house.
Yeah.
Because Ted lives in an inner ring suburb, but I live on the outer ring suburb where there's a lot of meth. Not so much meth in your neighborhood.
What do you think's in my?
We just had an OxyContin. I was
what
at
do you
work.
think? What's popular in my neighborhood? Like heroin or?
Yeah.
You don't think they do meth where I live?
Not as much.
Yeah.
No, because it was earlier this week. Guy, one city over from us, went to CVS, pointed a gun, said, "Fill up this bag of OxyContin." Leaves, cops chase him, crashes into a pole, and dies.
Really? That happened this week?
Yeah. Well, actually, he crashed into the pole, was injured, pointed his gun at the cops, then they shot him, and then he died. But I left out a part. But you get my gist.
Yeah, I was going to say you were talking about cracks in the wall. Did you notice the last show we did? Did you notice the cracks in the wall at my house?
No, I didn't.
I was going to point it out to you, but
Ted,
I started. It's.
I thought you wanted to sell your house. Ted, there's no cracks in Ted's walls. He
no, the steps that go upstairs.
Yeah,
it's that wall.
Oh, it looked like there was spackling on. Was there like spackled over?
For some reason, that wall just is kind of like falling apart.
Oh, okay.
And I can't figure out why. So I started, because I tried to patch it before, and it's like it doesn't want anything on it. Like, it kicks it off.
It's rejecting. It's like when a body rejects a kidney. It's rejecting the spackling.
So, and even when I paint over it, it like bubbles up,
yeah.
So, a couple of weeks ago, I just started scraping stuff off.
Right.
And it just snowballs into, stuff falling off. But I just wondered if you noticed that. I'll have to point it out.
I did glance at some spackling by and looked that close. Because like I said, I was trying to focus on Beacon of Speech and doing a last minute thing. All right. I've been putting this off. I don't know if you can tell or not. But Donald Trump this week... Ted's already shaking his head. He said that he will accept the election results if he wins. Okay?
Do you ever think that maybe he's doing that just to be funny?
I hope he is. But so what I did is that stuck in my head. Okay?
I honestly think he's trying to be funny when he said that.
I think he is trying to elicit a reaction like Howard Stern or Marilyn Manson. Oh, let me do one more thing about Howard Stern before I forget. Howard Stern, another article came out. People asked Howard Stern to release the old Donald Trump tapes from when he was on the Howard Stern show 15, 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Howard Stern said no, because people want to use it for political gain. He said whenever he had Donald Trump in the studio, he was always playful and over the top.
Yeah.
And he said a lot of the things he said on the Howard Stern show, believe it or not, was for effect.
Yeah.
Right? So when you're saying, maybe Donald Trump is saying, I'll respect it if I win, is for effect, because in his mind, he's still on the Howard Stern show. You know what I mean? He's not running for president. But what was my point? I forgot what my point was with Donald Trump. Oh, I remember. So he said that, right? And
did you watch the debate? One of the funniest parts.
I'll let you go first, and then I'll go.
But I mean, there were a lot of funny parts because I just think Donald Trump is funny.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I like him.
Yeah.
Hillary was going just like slamming him about something.
Right.
And he just said really, really quietly, he said, such a nasty woman.
Let me tell you. Because I'm glad you said that, because I was watching the debates, and Donald Trump said, what was it, mean hombre?
Yeah.
Nasty hombres?
Bad hombres.
Bad hombres. He said, those are some bad hombres. And I laughed. I said, that's funny. That's a good line. You know, when you're in the cutting room on The Apprentice, that's a good line. You want to make sure that makes post-production, right? And so I'm like, I laughed, you know. And then, you know, the next day, Donald Trump is a racist because he used bad hombre. And I'm like, no, he was being funny, right? But here's where I had to turn off the debate, because how many times have you heard me talk about Gary Johnson WikiLeaks ad nauseum, right? Chris Wallace gets a mean tone in his voice, and he goes, Hillary Clinton, what do you have to say about blah, blah, blah that was leaked by WikiLeaks? He says, that's your words. What do you have to say? What is your response to that? And Hillary Clinton said, I'm offended that the Russians are trying to affect the election.
Yeah.
Right? And she gave her politically correct answer. And then Donald Trump turned. He goes, that was a nice pivot, but I want it noted that she did not answer the question one bit. And I was like, and it makes me so mad when Donald Trump is right. Because he said, notice the way she pivoted and did not answer the question. And I said, and that's right. She did not address one thing in that WikiLeaks thing. Yeah. Because in her mind, she didn't do anything wrong, because they stole the information. It didn't matter that the information was true. It didn't matter that she said it. It was the matter that the information got out.
You know what I think? It makes me think of like a court case where a judge says you can't allow this information because it was obtained illegally.
Yeah.
But how do you, once you know something, how are you able to just, like, deny it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And then she's like, I can't believe you would even talk about the Russians. Well, it doesn't matter how the Russians got the information. Now it's public record.
Yeah.
And you can't prove, and again, you know, we were making fun of Jesse Ventura. He thinks that George Bush had a backpack, right? In Hillary Clinton's mind, she thinks that Vladimir Putin is in his basement of his mansion with a server behind him, and he's on his MacBook Pro, and he's typing away, oh, I'm going to steal all this stuff. There's no way in hell that Putin is doing that. Hillary Clinton is probably screaming at Bill right now, I know Putin's in his basement. Him and his little Russian friends. It doesn't matter. Did you say that or not? Because she's a lawyer, everything's all about lawyers. That evidence is not admissible.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I turn as soon as Donald Trump said, notice how she pivoted on the answer. I said, I'm done. Click. Turned it right off. And I said, I am so sick of this debate. I don't understand how Gary Johnson's polling at 8%.
It's not even 8% anymore, is
No,
it?
it's down to like 6. It's just horribly upsetting to me. And if you do, let's just, for easy math, say it's 10%.
I heard that McMullen is leading in Utah.
No. If he is, good for him. Because the more the merrier. Because I'm telling you.
But you know what? You know what'll happen, though? I was thinking of this before. It's like, even if something happens where nobody gets the 270 electoral votes,
Right.
it's going to go to Clinton.
Yeah.
Because it'll go to what? The House of Representatives? Yeah. They're not going to go for Trump.
No. A whole bunch of them already pulled their endorsements. And that's the whole thing. That's why I'm the biggest third-party guy there is. And say McMullen, Stein, and Johnson all poll to combine make 10%. In my mind, I'm still like, what are 9 of the 10 other people doing?
Yeah. And
Do you want to know what the point of my story was before I forget it?
Yeah.
So after the debates, the next day I was sitting and I'm running and I'm like, you know what? And I was just bummed out because I'm like, Hillary's going to win. Okay? Now, you don't agree. Okay? But...
Well, yeah.
But...
I know what my prediction was. But Well, go ahead.
But if she wins, I'm going to be bummed out. Okay? And I'm like, in my head, she's already won. Right? And now we got to go through all
That's
the...
why you got to vote for Trump.
But now... And
because if you don't, a vote for anybody else is a vote for Hillary, Fred.
I am going to put this in writing because I already have an outline because I was at work and I had some downtime, right? And I put together an outline. Who do you think is going to, and we'll make this prediction, but instead of putting in the prediction box is only 1 year ahead. I'm going to put on Beacon of Speech, right? Who do you think is going to be running, and you can think about it while I keep talking. Who do you think is going to run for president in 2020?
Oh, boy.
Okay? Now, you think about that, and I'm going to tell you what
you have to... Who's going to be running in 2020 if Hillary wins, or...
In my head, I assume Hillary's winning. So we'll go with that premise. Okay? So, but I'm going to tell you what I think.
Because generally... whoever wins, that party, nobody's going to be running.
Right. So, in my head, I think Hillary's going to win. But I already made the prediction on our prediction show, right? That because Hillary sold her soul to the devil, she will win and then she'll die of a stroke or a heart attack within 6 months, right? Now, who's her running mate? Pence?
No, it's...
Oh, that's Trump's running mate.
Tim Kaine.
Tim Kaine. So my prediction for 2020, and I'm writing this down, is that Kaine will run for re-election because I don't think Hillary's going to make it. Okay? Now, people are laughing at their, speakers right now. Oh, Fred's a big conspiracy theorist. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. The Bible says when you sell your soul to the devil, you always get screwed in the bargain.
Okay, so Hillary will be William Henry Harrison.
Yes.
And Tim Kaine will be, what was it, Tyler?
Yes. So Kaine will be running for re-election in 2020. Okay? Now, because everybody pissed off the because Trump pissed off the Hispanics this time around, the Republicans, it's going to be a 4-man race. Okay, this is my prediction. Ted Cruz, candidate 1. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Marco Rubio, I think he's going to run.
Yeah, because they're both young.
They're both young. They're both Hispanic. right? Number 3, I think Mark Cuban is going to run.
No.
Every time, you've heard me talk about how I like Mark Cuban, right? You notice every time Donald Trump says something stupid, you know who's on TV? Mark Cuban.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? We should vote for a businessman for president, but not one who says something stupid. I wonder who Mark Cuban is talking about. I wonder who Mark Cuban is talking about. All right? And then here's my dark horse, all right, for 2020. I think that Glenn Beck is so upset. I think he's so upset that Ted Cruz endorsed Trump and that nobody stood their ground against Trump and the Republican Party.
Don't tell me Glenn Beck is going to run.
I think that Glenn Beck is going to run.
Oh.
I read stories on the Daily Beast at least once a week, and they say that his empire is crumbling, that he's crazy, he's delusional. Glenn Beck thinks he's the John the Baptist of a new generation. You see what I'm saying? Now, maybe the Daily Beast hates him, okay?
Well, I will tell you that, over the last, how long has Glenn Beck been on the air here? Maybe 12, 13 years?
Yeah, 10 or 12 years, yeah.
And I've been listening to him pretty consistently over those years. Over the last year, it's gotten to the point where I can't even listen to him.
Because he's crazy.
Because I understand if you don't like Trump.
Yeah.
And, you speak your mind about it. But not every single day for the last year, ever since Donald Trump said he was running.
Right.
Every day, it's like ragging on the guy. It's enough already.
Right. Now, and let me back this up real quick. I think not only is Glenn Beck pissed off that Ted Cruz betrayed him, right? He did not endorse Trump. He said Trump is a maniac. True. Okay? He said he would not vote for Hillary.
Glenn Beck.
Correct. Talking about Glenn Beck.
Yeah.
He would not vote for Hillary because he has principles. Who is he voting for?
I don't know. I think he might be voting for that McMullen.
That's where I'm going. Third, right?
Because now I think he's... Originally, I thought he might have been voting for Gary Johnson.
Oh, no. He said that Gary Johnson is an airhead. That Gary Johnson has, brain farts. He's kind of like me on the radio sometimes. The circuits don't connect. And he says, Gary Johnson's not all there. He goes, you cannot have somebody who's not all there. Who's in fourth in the poll? Jill Stein. Jill Stein doesn't believe in anything that Glenn Beck. He's not voting for Jill Stein. Fifth in the polls, right? Ewan McMullen. I guess he's Evan McMullen, whatever the hell his name is, right? Glenn Beck said that he is not voting for him. Okay, so now that's the guy who's in fifth place. There's a guy in sixth place, and I don't remember his name. I apologize. Glenn Beck says I am not voting for him.
The guy in sixth place.
The guy in sixth place. The guy in seventh place, there's a party called the Constitution Party, and I guess they run on the platform that the Constitution is the beginning and the end. Most of what government is illegal based on the Constitution. Okay, they're like libertarians to the exponential libertarians, right? I don't even remember the guy's name, and that's who Glenn Beck endorsed. Okay, he got a bump in the polls from 0.1% to 0.2%.
I believe in the Constitution, but these people who want to be strict constitutionalists,
it's like Amish.
What are you going to do? Because look at Social Security.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be unconstitutional?
Yes.
Basically, everything about today would be unconstitutional.
Income tax, unconstitutional.
Yeah.
Social Security, unconstitutional.
Yeah, I mean,
Obamacare.
This ship has sailed.
No.
People should have been screaming about the Constitution 100 years ago.
We are going back to 1789.
And like I said, I'm not necessarily opposed to what they're saying.
Right.
But how are you going to make this work?
Yeah. So Glenn Beck endorsed this guy.
Am I right, though, that Social Security, Medicare, all that stuff would be unconstitutional?
Yes. I believe so, yes.
So what are you going to do? What are you going to, a third of the population, or half the population gets something from the government?
Yes. So, and again, I'm not arguing with you. You are right. And when you say the ship has sailed, that's the perfect analogy. We can't go back in time, and, at the end of the day, women couldn't vote at the original Constitution. But he would say, oh, well, that counts because that was Amendment 19 or whatever gave women the right to vote. What was the 19th Amendment, 21st Amendment?
I forget the number. I think the 19th Amendment. I'm not sure.
So, but the point is that he endorsed the Constitution.
19th might have been Prohibition.
Oh, it was an amendment. The point is that he endorsed some guy who's never going to get any traction ever. Just like you said, right? So I think he endorsed him, okay?
Because I'm just picturing Glenn Beck. He's going to be dressed up like, the guys from 1776.
He's got the big powdered wig.
Musket.
He's got a musket. He's like, I'm going to protect Boston.
He's churning butter.
But I think he did it because all these right-wing people have thrown in either with Trump or the conservative movement, right? And I think Trump is going to do when he loses, he's going to do serious damage. And I think out of the new Republican Party.
What do you mean serious damage? Like in what way?
Like Republican Party is going to lose the numbers. And
it's yeah.
Partially
it's already.
Yeah. And so I think Glenn Beck is angling. There is nobody else in the Republican Party with principles who has name recognition. Again, I don't. Let's go back to that Evan McMullen, okay? I keep calling him Ewan McMullen, okay? He has no.
Are you thinking of Ewan McGregor?
Yeah, probably. But Evan McMullen has no name recognition. And it seems like so many people who vote based on name recognition. Yeah. They don't know up from down, good from bad. Howard Stern now has good name recognition. In the old days, he has bad name recognition.
It's the brand.
Yeah. And so it's all about branding. And I think in Glenn Beck's head, he says, I can brand myself to be the leader of the Republican Party out of the ashes of the old Republican Party.
Now, but when people see Glenn Beck's name, aren't they going to think, oh, that's that crazy guy?
Yeah, but that's what they said about Trump.
Yeah.
They said there's that crazy guy from The Apprentice. Okay?
They won't even think that radio guy. They'll just think the crazy guy.
The crazy guy. Well, it's the same thing with Mark Cuban. They'll be like, we like that businessman from Shark Tank. I mean, that's more of an indictment on America than it is. You don't have leaders who have vision anymore, who are like, let's go back to the 50s. Eisenhower, right? People knew Eisenhower because he was a general.
I'm just laughing because I was listening to Michael Savage, and you know how when Hillary smiles,
yeah,
he says she looks like a crazy woman.
Yes,
because it looks like it's pasted on,
Yeah. So, if you want to answer, you can, but if you don't want to, because hopefully the Republicans don't trot out 17 people again. You know what I mean?
Oh, I don't. Yeah.
So when they lose, I expect them to solidify, and the party bigwigs say, "Listen, we're only going to go with a few people," and that's my prediction: is that they'll be the big four. I'm going to call them the big four. Cruz, Rubio, because Cruz will appeal to the hardcore conservatives, right? Glenn Beck said Ted Cruz was the closest thing to Reagan since Reagan. right? Rubio, they are trying to court the moderate Hispanic vote, right?
Looking back, Rubio probably would have been their best opportunity this time around.
Yeah. And then Cuban, there's still going to be all these Trumpsters who are still going to be in the Republican Party. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And they're going to be like, well, we still want a businessman. We don't want a politician. You see what I'm saying? So the old Trump voters, I think they're going to gravitate to Cuban. And then, like I said, I think Glenn Beck is going to have an epiphany and say God came to him in his sleep and said to run. And he's going to sell the Blaze, just like Al Gore sold his network. He's going to sell the Blaze. He's going to, again, this will be about 2000. I'm putting this in parentheses. Glenn Beck in about 2018 will be like, God came down on a low cloud while I was praying. He said, Glenn Beck, you're the only one who can save America. And then Glenn Beck's like, God, you're right. I agree. I am the only one who can save America.
What's the difference between like vision and delusions of grandeur? You know what I mean?
You know what it is? It's a very thin line. Okay?
Because somebody like Reagan probably had vision.
Right.
But Glenn Beck, I think, probably
has visions instead of has a vision. Glenn Beck has visions. So
now, will you be voting for Glenn Beck if he runs, or?
You know what? I'm looking at this. I don't know. Maybe I have to get to know Kane better because all these. I still can't believe that the Republican Party trotted Trump out there. They had 17 people to choose from, and they still came up with Donald Trump. So.
Well, it wasn't the party.
No, I know. But
yeah, no, I know what you mean.
All right, Ted. Well, since I ruined your night, I apologize with the whole Howard Stern thing. Maybe Howard Stern wants to run for office. Maybe that's why he's trying to change his image.
I'll tell you what, it wouldn't surprise me.
Maybe Howard Stern sees himself as. Maybe I should.
Maybe he'll be on the ticket with Glenn Beck.
Glenn Beck, the Beck Stern ticket 2020. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the website. Now, even if we don't have a show in 4 years, hopefully I still at least have the website, because it's got a link to my writing. And so, do you want to think about that, or do you want to make any predictions for 2020? For people who you think are or are not going to run?
Yeah, let me think about that.
You think about that.
I mean, I like some of your choices. I already agree with Ted Cruz and Rubio.
Marco Rubio.
And yeah, the other ones I'm not sure of.
Yeah, but I'm not you and you're not me. You could be like, I think Carly Fiorino is going to have 4 years to campaign. Or I keep wanting to say Lindsey Graham. Or Lindsey Buckingham.
Lindsey Buckingham.
There
is Lindsey Graham. That's right.
I think
he ran.
Yeah, but he ran the year before.
Lindsey Graham amnesty.
But like, here's the analogy. Oh geez, Mike Huckabee. Okay, he ran in 2000 and I think it was 2000. No, 2004 and 2008. Nobody knew who Mike Huckabee was, right? And Mike Huckabee was this hardcore right-winger, right? Nobody knew. He had no name recognition. He's drawn 1% in the polls. And then Fox News hired him, right? And then he had more name recognition. And people are like, oh, Mike Huckabee, you should run, right? So there's a name recognition factor that this whole Trump-Clinton thing, I think the days of people coming out of nowhere is over. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to have some sort of name recognition. You can't come, you're not coming from the senator from Delaware, Joe Smith. If you don't have some sort of
Well, it must have, then if you think that, it must have just ended. Because Obama kind of came out of nowhere.
Well, that's what I'm saying. After Obama,
You're thinking he's the last one?
That's the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a very strange cycle or whatever you want to call it.
And nobody was predicting Trump in 16 at 2012. You know what I mean?
No.
And so that's why I'm like, you know what? I think Glenn Beck, some of the stuff I've been reading this week is just kind of zany. So I'm going to... if Glenn Beck doesn't run and Mark Cuban doesn't run, somebody like Trump will run. Somebody who has a name who they think can pull in millions of people. I'm trying to think of somebody else. Think of another reality show that's really popular.
What about Artie Lange?
Can I tell you a secret?
What?
I think Artie Lange might be dead in 2022. When he was having his, when I saw the picture, buy his podcast for $6, this much, like I said, this must be our 10th plug for Artie Lange. He isn't looking so good.
Yeah.
He still looks like he's real rough around the edges. Like he's not trying.
Is he gray now?
Oh yeah, he's grayer than I am. And like I said, I gained weight. I gained a lot of weight, okay? But it's hard to gain weight when you're doing heroin, okay? And he was doing heroin and gaining weight. It's like, I don't know what he was eating that he was able to pull that off.
Well, that makes me think of, remember Scott the engineer on the Stern show?
Yeah.
They would make fun of him because he was heavy and he smoked.
Yeah.
Howard Stern goes, at least when I smoked, I was thin.
Yeah. Because most people substitute eating with smoking. As a matter, I went to breakfast with some people at work, and the one girl was razor thin, right? And she smoked. And then the waitress came, and she goes, I just want a coffee. And then she ate a cracker out of her purse, okay? And that was her meal.
Yeah.
The coffee, the cracker, and the cigarette. So like I said, Artie Lange's pulling off a rarity. So, all right.
And the weird thing is that, so Artie is still heavy.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And the weird thing is that I think he smokes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's hard to be heavy and a smoker and a heroin addict. Artie Lange would probably come on and say he's not doing heroin anymore. But
yeah,
I don't think he's going to do our show. He should do our show. We gave him enough free plugs today.
Well, remember I was trying to get Donald Trump to come on the show.
Yeah, maybe my goal will be get that draft Artie Lange in 2020. So, all right.
Then Donald Trump ignored us.
Song of the day. Fred is picking. I'll tell a short story. I have a new job, and it's been a little stressful because I've been on my own this week. And all day, all week, whenever
do you have a helper? Like you were the helper?
No. Well, some of the time, but not all the time. So this week, I was by myself most of the time, right? And whenever I'd get stressed out, instead of thinking like Slipknot or Metallica or Anthrax like I usually do, I kept singing the songs of Sweet, from the early 70s. And I kept singing Love is Like Oxygen. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell is wrong with me because that song was from I was 7. Okay? So that's the song of the day. Love is Like Oxygen by Sweet. Are you a Sweet fan? That's not even my favorite Sweet song.
I definitely know that song.
My favorite song by Sweet is Ballroom Blitz. Right? And then my second favorite Sweet song is probably that Little Willie song. Little Willie, Willie won't go home. You know that song?
I don't know that one.
Okay.
The Love is Like Oxygen.
That's like my third favorite Sweet song.
What I remember about that is, when me and my friends used to be driving around, a lot of times we drove in the one guy's car. And he had like a power booster on his stereo.
Yeah.
And whenever that song would come on, he would like turn it up like.
See, that's awesome. See, you have good friends.
Yeah.
So, all right, Ted. Today I only had one thing on the outline, and then I sucked the air out of the room by talking election and bumming you out with Howard Stern. So hopefully next week it will be more upbeat. Do you accept my apology?
Yeah, I guess.